A very warm welcome to you all to this session. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Doing dairy differently. My name's Nikki Yoxall. I'm head of research at Pasture for Life. And a quick plug for Pasture for Life, do come and see us. We're literally that tent over there. So don't go now. At the end of the session, come and visit the stand. We've got a great membership offer on whilst we're at the show. But yeah, enough about Pasture for Life. I'm delighted to introduce our three panellists today. Just to let you know that Phyllida Warmington, who was meant to be on the panel, sadly wasn't able to make it. But at the last minute, Rebecca Mayhew kindly jumped in. So if you're thinking, that looks like Rebecca, that doesn't look like the person we're expecting, that's why. So this session came about because I am in the very lucky position to hear about, read about, and meet amazing dairy farmers who are doing some really, really interesting work. And quite often, what they're doing seems impossible. And when you ask other people, oh, you know, I heard this guy is doing this kind of particular system, or I've heard that Rebecca's doing this, and other people will tell you, well, that won't work. It's not possible. But these guys are making it so. The dairy sector, as you know, comes under this pressure to demonstrate not only sustainability, but also there's a social license and ethical element in that. And change can be really difficult. And we all know that our mindset is the most important part of that change. So we're going to hear today from these three farmers who've all made changes on their farms and in their systems that many would consider strange, reckless, or, as I've said, even impossible. And we're going to hear some detailed descriptions of the change process, or for some, not the change process, but the kind of the development of from scratch system ideas, why they did things differently, and the lessons that they learned along the way. So a quick introduction to our panel. What we're going to do, just to give you an overview of how the session will run, each of our farmers is going to give a short presentation just to give you a bit of context as to their system. I'm then going to start asking them some questions, and hopefully we'll get into the kind of the detail of what they're doing, and then we'll open out so that you guys all have the opportunity to ask questions as well. So we will have a roving mic, and it would be really great, if you, whilst you're listening, have a think of some questions you want to ask, and we will get to those towards the end of the session. So, introductions. This is Sam Carey. Sam is a Harper Adams agriculture graduate. He farms 3 dairy units across Mid, North Wales and Shropshire. We were just talking about they're quite spread out, so it's quite a challenge to get across all 3 of them. He's got significant experience in setting up joint ventures, and he's passionate about grass-based farming systems and is developing a low to no input regen dairy farming model. We then have Oliver Chedgey, who's a first-generation farmer who started off his own business using sheep and beef cattle to graze uncropped land of the local arable farmers, eventually building up to 1,200 acres. And then the next progression was to move into dairy farming, entering into a share farming agreement at Kingsclere. He's now milking 450 organic cows once a day on a pasture-based system through a mobile milking parlour, one of only 4 in the whole of the UK. And Ollie also is running the roaming smoker with Tim over in the food area. So if you're interested in tasting some of the products that is coming off the farm, then you can do that as well. And then we have Rebecca. So Rebecca does work with us at Pasture for Life, but Rebecca farms with her husband Stuart and her 2 children, Isabel and Jack, in South Norfolk, where they've converted the once intensively farmed 500-acre site into a regenerative oasis. They've got multiple enterprises, including a 60-head raw Jersey dairy, keeping calves and cows together. They also have, I think, about 300 suckler cows now, sheep, pigs, goats, laying hens, and a fantastic farm shop. And if you're ever in the area, I can really recommend it for an excellent brunch. Management training. They've also gone through holistic management training, which has given them an invaluable framework for healing the farm whilst engaging with other farmers, the public, local schools. And Rebecca is often asked to speak at events, particularly for CLA. And so I think, really delighted that she was able to join us today. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Sam, and we're going to hear a bit about his farm, and then we will get to a bit of a panel discussion after we've heard from our 3 farmers. Sam.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Just like to start by saying how much of a privilege it is to be here and to be involved, and just to be in such a great atmosphere and share ideas. My name's Sam Carey. I currently live in Machynlleth in Mid Wales. I was brought up in Pembrokeshire. My father was an intensive Holstein dairy farmer. My mother was an opera singer. And went to Harper Adams to study agriculture, and then I went home for 6 months, and there wasn't quite enough space for all of us. And so I set about to try and start my own career, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but grass-based dairy farming, share farming seemed like a really great opportunity to start. So I moved to North Wales to learn the grass-based system, and set about on my own share farming venture, which I did for 9 years, and converted a sheep farm there to milk 500 cows in a very conventional system where we used a ton of cake, 270 kilos of nitrogen, and stocked at 4 cows to the hectare. And in 2019, I won the Welsh Grassland Farmer of the Year, and based in Bala is actually where I met my wife, and we've now got 4 kids. But I could see the vulnerabilities of the system, and by 2020, I'd become aware of more regenerative systems, and I became really inspired by them, especially by Elaine Ingham or Newman Turner, who farmed in the 40s, and Ian Mitchell-Innes, and it really made me question what I was doing and what I was about, what my legacy would be. And I suppose if you I didn't feel that we were kind of confronting the wider issues of farming, be that climate or biodiversity loss or nutrient deficiency in food, and question the amount of inputs. Even though we considered ourselves low input, we still had a significant amount of inputs. And there was an interesting graph I saw, and I can't remember who was by, but as farmers, we become a lot more productive, but not necessarily any more profitable. So I was after a challenge, and I dreamed up a potential system where we were all grass, grazed 365 days a year with no housing and minimal inputs. And as Nikki alluded to earlier, it was just a mindset change, and if we could make that mindset change, it might be possible. Well, in 2020, the opportunity came. About an hour south of where I was, I managed to kind of find an opportunity to rent a farm for 20 years, a 450-acre farm, which was once considered one of the best farms in the area, but had been very run down. It had been on 11-month lets for about 20 years with no inputs, 6 different people grazing it, and about 4 different farmers taking silage off the land. And so our tenancy started on the 30th of October. The sheep left on the 26th. And we set about setting out the farm into 200 paddocks with electric fences whilst we were converting the farm. So we put in tracks and water and a milking parlour. But whilst we were doing this, we had the cows on the farm to bale graze. This is what it looked like. So we were giving them 0.8 hectares a day from October until 1st of April, when we started calving. And we focused on high densities. So you can see here what was left behind were the waste of hay and muck and urine. High densities to trample the bracken and the moss and the grass. And this is what it looked like. We moved the cows 4 times a day, every 2 hours. So 8, 10, 12, and 2. And this is what it looked like from afar. And then we worked around the whole farm. And in 3 years, we've been able to improve the grass. We've seen significant improvements. I wouldn't say it's perfect. I think we've proven that we can keep cows out all year round. We've still got a lot of work to do, but I think it shows what potentially a change in mindset can do and what you can make happen. So I'd like to walk the farm every month at least before we took the tenancy. And this is a picture I took on the left before we started, the same then in March. And we were then, 3 years later, the next year looked better, the next year after looked better, but it looked significantly better in the 3rd year. It has been extremely challenging. I asked for a challenge, that's what I got. But we are seeing improvements. I listened to John Kemp earlier talking about the rhizophagy on the roots. We're starting to see it in places. Our bricks levels when we started were around 4 to 5, if that, sometimes in 2s. And we're starting to see now bricks is over 15, which is really exciting. And milk yields are improving. Cow condition is improving. You know, you can read a cow by her coat, and the coats, you know, they're looking really well and shining. So there's a lot of tweaking to do, but I think one of the biggest challenges has been when you're changing system, you get one chance in that year to make a choice, and a lot of the time you've got to wait 12 months to see if it worked or to even make a different choice. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.
I'd also like to say thank you for the opportunity to, speak today. It's a privilege for me to do it. So yeah, I've been quite busy smoking the beef with the team, so I've put this together. So first generation farmer, come from beef and sheep, so I haven't really changed a dairy system. I've just saw an opportunity to become a dairy farmer, so slightly different. And all I've really done is put my sheep knowledge into a dairy cow as a very extensive, low input, simple system. So in 2017, there was an opportunity to go share farming with Tim May and Kingsclear Estates. All the advert said was 1,000 acres of herbal lays, do what you want with it, but you have to go over every inch of it with the operation. So most consultants I spoke to said, this is easy, take 200 acres down the bottom, put cow tracks in, put a simple Kiwi parlour in the middle, and away you go. But Tim wouldn't spend the money in the investment. He'd been dairy farming before. No one would really guarantee a milk price in 10 years' time. I couldn't borrow the money to put concrete in. The agreement was only 5 years, so we had to think a bit different. So we decided to go mobile milking. Tom Furt and Neil Grigg were doing this quite successfully down in Dorset. I was at Silhane with those guys, and I got them to make me a parlour. So that's basically what I started. In 2009, we bought 32 draft sheep, and now the beef and sheep farm I've still got. I've worked with 9 different landlords up through a valley. It's roughly about 2,000 acres now. Most of it is on grazing licenses. There are a few FBTs in there, but it all works by marrying all those landlords together. And that's very key to that system. I could sell the sheep out, but they are a good footstone into what we're trying to do. So I'm happy to keep the sheep enterprise. That's run as a partnership with my mother, and I employ a full-time guy down there who's buying into the sheep slowly. So it's a big part of me to put back down in the system because people have helped me up, so I'm helping him. So he has the opportunity to buy up to 80% of that business, which he's slowly doing. So the mobile dairy set off in 2018 with 180 heifers, and that's what we were fronted with. Not in any of my business models was the Beast of the East. I hadn't really budgeted for any labour. There's a guy in the audience that was helping Tim that helped me for that first 6 weeks, and the rest of the year I was on my own. But when you learn about resilience and what you need to learn, we learned everything in that first 2 weeks. And when you've got borrowings at 9% unsecured, debt certainly focuses you. So we were fully committed, and we had to go for it. So our cows are pretty much Frisian cross Jersey. We're looking for about 500 kilo, 520 kilo cow. We were pushing the weight down to maybe 480, but with the Arla contracts coming in with every calf matters, we've started to push that cow weight up a little bit more now because the outwintering does work. We were worried about the outwintering, so we're quite happy we can carry a 520 kilo cow through the winter, and then we can sell the beef through the system. So we have no buildings, no tracks. The infrastructure Tim gave me was a hose pipe and electric fence. So I don't know if he's more stubborn than I am, but so yeah, that's our typical milking in the morning. Milking once a day. They're getting about 6 hectare blocks a day, and that's our cows sat down in the collecting yard. They come through in the order they want to come in. There's no cake in our parlour, so we've never fed any concentrates. again, the system's evolved because of my cash flow. I couldn't go and spend a load of money on cake, so I had to make it work without feeding the cake. And there's no parlour in the feeder because there's no way really of doing it other than carrying 20-kilo bags, which I wasn't going to do for that long. So their incentive and their carrot to come through that system is their break of grass the next day. We try all sorts of things on the estate. This is giant sorghum and millet, and some giant sorghum, millet, and normal sorghum, I think. We did forage that into a clamp to try and compete with maize, basically, because we're fully organic, the estate, and it's trying to compete with maize. So we grazed some of this and foraged it, but I don't think we messed up with the contractors, that we didn't get them to crack the grain enough. So we didn't really get the full benefit from it, but really drought resilient. Just to show the system, so everything is mobile. Everything on the estate that I own, which is all the infrastructure, 55% of the cows, and I employ all the staff. So effectively, if we tip Tim's estate upside down, all my bits would come off because I only had a 5-year agreement. The only thing I'm leaving behind is the organic matter that I built him, which we've never really calculated the price. Yeah. So all the water pipe is done on 32 mil. Tim's got some old water systems with reservoirs, and we just come off there and gravity feeds most of it. We have a few pumps around the estate. You can see on the bottom left there, we do have a bowser for when the pipes freeze in the winter, but we don't milk in the winter, so we dry the cows off on the 1st of December. I will not milk Christmas Day, so the cows are dry. The pipe is black, so normally when you've got hard frost, you get a blue sky, and the pipe does thaw out in a day, or we do clever things like take the tap off the end to get it to run. So maybe once a winter, we might spend 3 days bowsering, but we can always move the cows back to the water that's underground. And then in the summer, we may bowser for 3 or 4 days in the summer. Again, if I went back to Tim and said, I need a 52-inch ring main around his estate, he's going to say, who's going to pay for it? So the share farming works that we've basically got 2 thinkers on the estate. So we both complement each other. So the troughs are mobile. So I've only got 4 troughs. I've probably got about 50, 60 paddocks. So that's a lot of money on water troughs. So it's simpler just to have 2. So our winter, we put in about 24 hectares of fodder beet. We've had great success growing fodder beet. So that would be our leaner cows, or our R2s would go onto it, or our R1s. Most of it is hay bales and diverse grazing through our winter blocks. So the estate is in 8 cropping blocks. And every year we lose about 250 acres, so that's what we outwinter on. So we're trying to break that organic, break the herbal lay as much as we can. So we're quite happy to trash it as much as we can. Just some more pictures. That's some really heavy soil. But the cows are fine. That's some of the fodder beet. We had a little competition to see who could find the biggest one. So what we have put in the system, which was never budgeted for, really struggled to justify it, but we had to buy this hustler to feed out in the summer or in the winter because we're mobile and we're 2,500 acres estate. If I got the food in the wrong place, I could spend 2 days trying to cart the bales. So this has allowed me to do it. The whole system runs on 1 tractor. Just some more outwintering. Very, very keen, just quickly, there's my 2 children there, very keen to get them involved in the farm. They kind of go back into schools and tell them what they've been doing. I don't force it on them. Some weeks they come every day, some it might be 6 months before they come back, but they're not quite tall enough to milk yet. So that's us milking right at the back end. So that's end of November one year. You can see the ground conditions are fine. All the milk goes into a lorry. That's 4-wheel drive. Maybe, yeah, I wouldn't tow that very often. Just some more pictures of the system. So just a typical herbal lay, what we're growing. Some summer grazings, some really tall covers to try and knock it down. So that would be on twice daily moves. The dog cuts her foot. So we've been farming now for 6.5 years, and I've not picked up 1 cow foot, and I've not treated 1 cow for antibiotics for being lame. But the dog does cut her foot on flints. And that's just thank you, and that's it.
Morning, everyone. We're just about lunchtime now, aren't we? I'm Rebecca from Old Hall Farm and also Pasture for Life. Lovely to see you all, and thank you so much for asking me to be parachuted in. As you all know, if you've caught me in the bar, any excuse to stop and chat about cows. So here we are. We are based in Norfolk. Excellent, the slides work. So 500-acre farm altogether. I didn't used to be a farmer. I used to be a land agent. Sorry. That always gets a laugh, regardless of the audience. I always apologise. For any land agents listening, you could be a real force for good. If you want to know how, come see me after. Historical use, conventional pigs and arable, full of inputs everywhere, very low profitability. Least said about it, the better. We're over it now. We're doing other things, and it's much more rewarding. So current farm use, we are brand new to dairy. We got our first cows. We started with 1 cow and 3 heifers 8 years ago in November. We learned to milk from YouTube University, folks. It's fantastic. If you don't know, ask the internet. Or all these wonderful WhatsApp groups that we're all now on. So we've now, as Nikki said, we've 60 head of jerseys altogether. So we've got beef. We've set up a suckler herd who are all basically half Jersey. Sheep for meat, and the ones that escaped yesterday have all put their names on a list just before we left. We still have pigs. They're rare breed pigs, soy-free. We have a farm shop, butchery, restaurant, and a vineyard. That's the most unloved bit of the farm. If anyone would like to come and run a vineyard, come see me after. Basically, if it has a pulse, it's more important than everything else. Kids, you come first, obviously, and the husband's somewhere on the list. We were going to do some arable pasture cropping, but we haven't got the kit, so we haven't done it yet. And we've done all of our conversion of arable to pasture with countryside stewardship. So if anyone from DEFRA is listening, thank you very much. So here's one of my gorgeous girls, and there's an example there of our pastures. That has taken some time to develop this pasture, having gone from intensive arable, where anything that's not desirable gets exterminated. It's really hard to grow some of these lays. We're now 5 years in, and it's absolutely astounding. I'm sure most of you have hated this spring with all the rain. We've loved it. We get about 22 inches of rain a year normally in Norfolk. Used to keep maybe, half of it if we were lucky. I think now we keep more like 65, 70% of it. We're not there yet. The grass growth we've had this year shows that we're still lacking water all the time. So we're just trying to get better all the time at keeping it in the soil. So the majority of our milk is sold raw. We test it every week. We are TB tested every year. Fun and games. I'm really good friends with our DHI because he's a nice guy and is very supportive. Lots of added value products, which is something that we couldn't do when we had the pig enterprise. When I had children, I wanted to come home and have a farm shop. But actually, when you looked at the story of the pigs and what we were growing, it's not something anyone really, if you're honest about what was happening, would want to buy. Oh, the irony. Milk-wise, averaging 10 litres per cow per day-ish. It depends on a few factors. We're keeping all the calves with their mums, so that's obviously one of the factors that influences the milk yield. Lactation length, roughly 18 months. We have a strong online shop as well as our in-person shop. People can't buy what we grow where they are in the country, so they buy it from us online. We used to do farmers markets, and we've been asked to do wholesale, but we can't keep up, which is a wonderful problem to have. So that is our, don't laugh, we're very low tech still. Very, very low tech. That was our first parlour. You can see the 2 girls there. Yes, that is a portable milking machine, and yes, we did milk 25 cows on it. Taking the milk from the parlour to our little tiny processing room was always a little bit dicey due to the slightly patchy concrete, so you had to get your hand on the churn lid and guide the machine whilst hoping your cows weren't pooing everywhere while they were finishing their breakfasts. That was also fun in the Beast from the East. Hot flannels to keep the pulsator working. That was no fun at all. Milk was freezing as it hit the floor when we stripped the cow's teats out. once a day milking. I'm way too lazy to milk twice. Who wants to do all that washing up? So yeah, now milking 47 in the parlour, which is fantastic. You see, we've in that bottom left-hand picture, we've now upgraded to 6 milking stalls, which is brilliant fun. Does now mean that we need really 2 of us milking. It just makes it slightly smoother in terms of operation. So as I said, we keep all the calves at foot with their mums. No, calves at foot with their mums. 9 to 12 months, roughly. They're with their mums for. The little one at the top there, that was a Premier calf we had this year. That's been a lot of hard work trying to keep her going, but she's now amazing. If we had to change anything else about our system, this is the bit I would. This is the hill I choose to die on. I wouldn't do it any differently. We night wean, depending on lots of variables, around 3 months. So calves have their little area that they go into with their buddies. They get their grass nuts. It takes about 4 days to train them up, and then they just run in. And they think it's the most hilarious game, but they can still touch noses, talk to the mums, and it's all really low stress, which is really important. It's not just their stress, it's my stress. I don't want to be chasing them around the shed. So we do graze every day in the summer. The girls are in for about 4 hours in the winter because we've converted arable to legume-rich pasture. We don't have that lovely density that you'll see in permanent pasture yet. We could graze the cows every day in the winter if we could teleport them. So next little bit of investment, hopefully through catchment sensitive farming, might be some cow tracks. The girls do go out every 2 weeks in the winter when we muck the shed out. And if it's nice, then they'll go out more often. But it's cleaning muddy udders, absolutely no fun at all. If you add, it takes us 3 hours roughly to milk. If you add a minute on per cow for extra cleaning, you can see how you lose your time. So I know I'm whipping through this, but there's a lot to get through. So grazing, at the minute we're 1 paddock a day. I've tried doing 2 paddocks a day with the girls. With ours, it just doesn't always seem to work brilliantly. So they just had the 1 paddock a day. But what we have been able to do this year, due to the amazing rain, is that we've actually hit our 1 acre per day target, which we've been trying to do for 4 years. But that's what happens when you try and turn a little desert into pasture. It's hard work. So stocking density per acre, roughly 60 cows. Infrastructure, don't have enough of it. I dread to think how much money we spent on electric fence and alkathene pipe. But there we go. We haven't got a ring fence yet, so we do rely on some good behaviour. And we're hoping that this year is the year that we've got it right with the pasture and the cows and everything else. And that's just an example then of our grazing. I think the biggest picture you can just see on the left-hand side, that's a paddock they went into on Sunday, and the one that's on the right is the one they went into on Saturday. So we're aiming this year, and we've managed to achieve a really good heavy trample. The pasture's been amazing. Usually the girls, when they go out, will head for the water trough, but this year they're not. They're heading for the pasture, and it's really noticeable. So whether it's lusher and greener and they don't need that drink, I don't know, but it's been fascinating. So there's probably lots of stuff I've missed. There's no such thing as a dumb question, so ask lots. And that's my lovely family there in the picture. And that actually was a couple of years ago. We were in the Observer for reasons to be optimistic in whatever year it was published, which I thought was rather nice, being a livestock farmer, that people could be optimistic about us and what we do. So thank you very much. That's us in a nutshell.
Thank you so much to our 3 speakers. So I'm going to take chair's prerogative and ask all the questions I want to ask. But then it would be great if any of you want to ask some questions. As I said earlier, we will have a roving mic, so it'd be great to get your the questions that you're dying to ask. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting, Rebecca, you talked about the farm shop, and quite often when we hear about dairy systems that are a little bit different from the norm, there's this assumption that you have to sell direct, that you have to have a vending machine or a shop. Obviously, you've got a very successful farm shop, but I'm interested for Ollie and Sam, where's your milk going, and does that contract, how much? You did mention that you had to slightly change things a little bit and change the size of the cow, Ollie, but I'm interested in kind of, you're not selling direct, I don't think, and did that play into your thinking? And just, would like to hear a bit more about that part of the system. Where does the milk go, and what the impact of that contract has had on the decisions you've made? Has it made a difference?
yeah, I'd like to base the system on being at the moment a commodity producer, and I feel if we can do that, then we can scale the system. And one of my ambitions is to be able to develop a kind of a low capital system so that we can actually bring younger farmers into the system. So when it is niche, I think sometimes it can be, it's just for me, that sometimes it can be hard to scale. But if we can do it with a commodity, then we can create opportunities for young people to come into agriculture. So that's where I'm at.
I'm very fortunate to have an Arla contract. Without Arla, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I'm very conscious of that contract, although I do have a dying ambition to produce ice cream or kefir or sell direct. We have quite a big following. We live in a part of the world that has about 17,000 cars come past the estate every day. We mobile milk right on the side of the road. I pretty much once a week get someone wants to buy our milk, but we're not there yet. And it is a complete different business, and I'm very conscious that if I do that, then I need to make sure I got the right team behind me to do that.
And Rebecca, is selling direct something that you talked about wanting a farm shop? Has there been a point where you've kind of had a bit of a think about, actually, it's quite hard work, it's quite a lot of effort? Are there times where you think, actually, I'd rather not be selling direct, or is that something that has always been at the heart of what you're doing in your system?
I think for me, it's really important to sell food to people. That's what drives me. Don't get me wrong, there's at least one customer a week that drives me completely potty, and I completely get it's not something that everyone wants to do. But I do find that we are farmer advocates as well. And I think it's important for people to be able to reach out and find out where their food comes from. So, selling direct, love it and hate it. Would I want a contract? No. We've done commodities to death with the pigs and not been rewarded for it. And we want to take ourselves out of that commodity cycle because it nearly killed us.
Brilliant, thanks. It's really nice to have that diversity, I think, up here to demonstrate that actually you can do things differently, whether it's commodity provision or whether it's about producing food that you're selling direct. And I think that really hope that, the audience here is able to appreciate the kind of that actually you can do this at varying scales and producing various different outputs. Did you want to say something else, Rebecca?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to echo what you said about infrastructure. I mean, had we not done the farm shop, we'd have had more money to spend on infrastructure. And I think part of us in our hearts would love to do the mobile milking. I think it's amazing. But I think our system would be quite hard to do that with. But it's, as someone wanting to come in and be a new entrant to farming, is the infrastructure that can really get you. So these are both fantastic examples of how you can pare it back and do it minimally, which is just brilliant.
I was reminded when both Ollie and Sam were talking about that quote, scarcity breeds creativity. And I think, you talked about making it work and a bit of stubbornness as well, Ollie. I'm interested from the three of you, what are the characteristics that have helped you achieve what some might say is impossible, but you're kind of demonstrating it is doable? Stubbornness is obviously one of them. But Sam, what kind of characteristics, or how would someone else describe your characteristics that's enabled you to do what you're doing?
I'm naive. I think not scared to have a go, I suppose. I felt I'd been quite successful to find solutions to problems, and then I thought, okay, let's take on an even bigger one, and it kept getting even bigger. So the warmth of a challenge, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, running 3 units isn't a challenge enough. You want to make the units themselves even more challenging.
Well, I suppose you want to do what you believe in, and in what you value. And I think, even though that at this moment I don't want to direct sell, I still believe in creating good food and looking after nature and looking after people. So how can you do that and be true to your values? And I think I read in a book, Japanese farmers make decisions on a 200-year scale, and if you brought that back to how we were farming, it was kind of year to year, and 3 to 4 years, how much money you could make. So I think it's about having values as well, I suppose.
Okay, so like stubbornness, but like some integrity, and having those values. Ollie, anything other character traits other than stubbornness that you think are integral to the success of your system?
No, stubborn would be quite high up there, I would say, in my character. Yeah. I just wanted. I guess you want to win, like in sport. I suppose I'm quite competitive, but like I said, if once I had that debt over me, that focuses you. So although debt's bad, in some ways it's a good thing because that really drove me forward. And I just always wanted to farm, probably something that was in me from a very young age. So I've just carried that through my life. That's been burning there.
Go on, Rebecca. I was going to say, I feel like I know you a little bit, and I wanted to hazard a guess at what those characteristics were, but go on.
Crikey. I mean, yeah, completely agree with the chaps here. And I don't know, I've been criticised in more conventional circles for being in love with what I do and so passionate, but I think that's what gets us through. And it's almost like you shouldn't be joyful. Well, if it doesn't bring you joy, why are you doing it? And I think whatever the thing is in your system, you've got to find something that drives you. And yes, stubbornness helps. But if it doesn't bring you joy, if the wins don't bring you joy, if the successes and seeing the ground improve doesn't bring you joy, and knowing that you're producing fantastic milk that is nourishing people, if that doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. And I think for me, it's joy, love and passion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I think passion. It's hard to look at yourself sometimes, isn't it? What makes you work? But yeah.
So yeah, getting into a bit of psychoanalysis up here. It's a bit early for that, isn't it?
There's no beer, so it's way too early for proper deep
I'm asking
dive.
a lot. So one of the things we talked a little bit about challenges there, and I would say that these three really kind of have these expertise. There are people that I would send other people to. If someone came to me and said, I want to know about calf foot and cow calf dairying, I'd send them to Rebecca. If someone wanted to know about mobile dairying, I'd send them to Ollie. And if someone wanted to explore kind of really low input systems at altitude, I would definitely send them to Sam. So they've got these kind of, the key system characteristics that obviously highlight what these guys are doing. But I'm really interested in the thing that's challenging you. Like there's always something that isn't quite working, something that isn't, that's still like maybe niggling away at you that you haven't quite cracked yet. So I'm interested in knowing from you guys what isn't working, what are you still challenged by? I'm going to come to you first, Rebecca.
There's a long list. So I think probably for us, we're guilty of doing a lot of stuff at the same time. I mean, you saw the list of what we do. It's ridiculous. So I suppose we're lucky now in that our staffing team is better. So finding people to support us and actually asking for help, that's probably our biggest challenges. We're lucky now with the restaurant and the shop side of the business that has allowed us now to start focusing on the farming again. And it's really interesting that the more I seem to focus on the farming, the better the rest of the business does. And it's a little bit like I was speaking to someone last week who said once they focused on growing grass, they had to worry less about the cattle. So it's finding the thing to focus on to make everything better. But yeah, we try and do too much at once. Mm-hmm. So too ambitious probably. Okay. But
Ollie?
My biggest challenge that I get wrong every day is probably the weather. So our system is very vulnerable to the weather. I don't really have any tools or any infrastructure or any inputs going into the cows. So my main KPIs would be body condition score and grass sward. So this time of year, it's just looking at that cock's foot. It's just a headache. But in the autumn, there's a lot of milk in it, and then there's a lot of milk in the spring. So yeah, my biggest challenge is that weather, and now we've gone dry. So we pre-topped, pre-mowed or post-mowed a month ago, and now it's had a cold wind for 2 weeks, and now I look silly because I'm about to start feeding silage. So.
Biggest challenge probably would be time, I suppose, like making things work quick enough. I think we've been guilty maybe of some regenerative idealism when we started off, thinking that if we do this, it'll come. If it'll do this, it'll come. But I think it's time that we need things to happen, and if it doesn't happen quick enough, then your income suffers. So I think we need to find strategies to improve the soil quicker and grow more grass quicker, and so that's something that has challenged us. Our destination's always been the same, but how we get there has been changing annually as we learn more. And I suppose what I'm talking about is the soil. We thought that maybe we wouldn't have to add anything to the soil, but if you've got missing minerals, I think you need to add them. You might be introducing biology, and sometimes you need to add. We thought we could do it without seed, but we haven't reseeded. We've only reseeded one field so far, but I think going forward we probably do need to add some seed just to speed things up. We've doubled grass growth, but we probably need to quadruple it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, isn't it? Actually, about kind of our aligning with our values, the regenerative principles, the things that we kind of set out as having these really strong ideas about where we want to go. And sometimes it can be hard if you're quite an integrity and values-driven person to kind of swallow your pride a little bit, right? And go, oh, actually, maybe we are going to have to do that.
Or even, depending on who you listen to, there's different advice out there, isn't there? So I think you try things and, when you go down this route, there's a lot of trial and error, but trial and error takes time. So, and then if you find things don't work, then you need to change them. So those are the challenges, I think, especially when you're changing system. There's not that reference point. So you've really got to rely on your own decision making, and which is fine, but it also takes time.
Yeah, and I think having the networks and having people that you can go to and that you're safe to go, right, I've cocked this up, or this isn't working well. Anyone experience this, kind of have a bit of help. And, I really would recommend joining Pasture for Life for that. But anyway, that's another plug.
Sorry, did you say there was a membership deal as well?
There's a membership deal, yes. But carry on, Rebecca. Sorry.
Oh, no, just to echo again what Sam said. It's that, we do put us not on a pedestal, but we try and we have to believe in what we're doing. And it's if we build it, they will come. Which it works great for bricks and mortar on a farm shop, but actually with our degraded resource that we're trying to improve, actually we've had to kind of accept that maybe we ought to give ourselves a little bit of a helping hand and not cheat, but find a more intelligent way to do it, because there is the debt aspect that has to be repaid. So it's that, okay, everything will right itself in time, but actually do I want to wait as long as it would take naturally? Is there a natural way to speed things up? So it's, yeah.
And we can be quite critical of ourselves, can't we? We kind of, we don't farm dairy, but, we're beef producers. But my husband said the other day, he said, I was driving past a field and, I was really somebody else's field and I was really admiring how great it looked. And, there's loads of diversity in it. And, we give ourselves a hard time about what we've got at home. And he said, and then I realised actually it looked the same as our fields, but because it's somewhere else, it kind of looked okay. But on our farm, we were like, oh no, maybe we're not doing the right thing. So yeah, we can be quite high critics of ourselves, can't we? Be quite critical. I've got some more questions, but I'm going to open up to the audience and see if there are any other questions here. We do have a roving mic. So we've got a question from Angus over here. Oh, bear with us. On that side. Keep your hand up, Angus, so we can see where we're coming to. And then we'll go to one at the back afterwards. Introduce yourself, Angus.
Right. Hi, I'm Angus Dalton, dairy farmer from Peak District, grassland, and I can echo a lot of Sam's thoughts along the way here, and I'm going to direct my question straight at Sam, actually. How sustainable do you think that the conventional 21, 28-day rotation is on your pastures? And are you having the courage to go long grass grazing?
We tried long grass grazing and felt that it was a real struggle for dairy cows, especially. It was very challenging. We were trying to leave behind, and it just didn't really work for us. And we couldn't really grow enough grass to do it, or I couldn't get the quality either, because it just felt like we had a lot of stem coming back, and when it went dry, it got even more stressed. So we have gone to a higher utilization model, and we do have longer rotations, and we've got cows do quite well on the stemmier grass as well, not too much. Try and keep it leafy, but I think when we've got diversity, cows do a lot better. So tall grass, great. We've tried it on ryegrass. It was very challenging. Wouldn't work. Cows reject a lot. But and we'd go on quicker rotations. But on diverse swards, we can go a little bit longer. So I'm not sure if that's answered your question, but we definitely moved away from tall grass, to be honest.
I feel your pain.
Yeah. We've got another Angus at the back with a question. Keep your hand up, Angus, so that we can see.
Hi there. I'm Angus, cheese writer, and also work for Pasture for Life. I'm a massive advocate for raw milk due to its nutritional properties and what flavour it gives to cheese. where's the industry going for raw milk producers, and how can we encourage more farmers to sell raw milk? I think there's maybe about 160 raw milk producers in the UK, which doesn't seem very many to me. But I would love to know. Maybe Rebecca, as you sell raw milk.
So sorry, just to repeat the crux of your question: how can we encourage more people to do it?
Yes.
Okay, it's not. So we've only ever sold raw milk. We do now sell some pasteurised. Actually, less infrastructure cost for us, not to buy pasteuriser. We had one which cost us £18,500 and didn't use it for 2 years, but that was a just in case of a TB breakdown model. So now we do use it occasionally. So we should encourage more people to drink and use raw milk. Absolutely, it is not necessarily easy. So it's better for you. I mean, I went to a talk earlier, which was about regenerating the human, so concentrating on nutrition. One of the issues with raw milk is you can't do a randomized study to prove the benefits. So some of the rules are against us. I think in order to do more raw milk, you've got to sell more direct. Would I trust a supermarket to look after and distribute my milk? I would not. So there's a lot of trust in the system. So if you're buying raw milk from a farmer, you have to know what they do and trust what they do and understand that we are, really not going to have dirty cows and keep it cold. So I think in its place, it's brilliant, but I think at scale, it's very hard. For me, if I were to pick on something in the pasteurised, commoditised milk market, I would get rid of homogenisation. I think if you are worried about milk at all, then you should look into homogenisation. It is causing a health crisis. It will be on Panorama one day. So if you're in the supermarket buying milk, because you can't buy it locally, buy unhomogenised. So I think there's a really clear distinction as to, raw is brilliant, but I would buy it direct rather than from a big shop, because I don't think they'll treat it with the care and respect it deserves. But I think if you're looking from a health point of view, then I would go unhomogenised. It doesn't really help with your question, but it is difficult. So that's why I've hedged my bets and given a politician's answer.
Sam, Ollie, do either of you want to make an attempt at an answer about raw milk? Or?
Yeah, the risk would be too high for me. We're in and out of TB. So if I'd built a customer base up and then I've got to phone them and say, you can't have the milk anymore, I got TB, then they're going to be paranoid that they've got TB. So it's not on my radar now.
Sam? No, you don't have to answer.
Yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, would be interested, yeah. And I think there are benefits. I've drank it all my life, and my dad's been under TB restriction for 10 years, and I drank the milk, and I'm still here.
Proving the science there. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we've got some more questions. I think there was one somewhere in the middle. Put your hand up really high so I can see if... Okay, we've got a question there. And then did you want to go next, Sam? So we'll question there. Introduce yourself.
My name is Anushka. I'm a farm vet. I think the problem with TB in milk is especially dangerous for young children, babies and elderly people. And I think that you need to bear it in mind. And having bovine TB is not fun. We've got a lady in the practice who has had alpacas, and she's had it from her alpacas, and it's I really be careful with raw milk. I think there's a place for it with cheese, as certain cheeses will not favour Mycoplasma of Mycobacterium bovis, but yeah, I think that's another discussion.
Okay. I think there's a question here at the front from Sam, and then we'll go over to John. This is not great. I seem to know all the audience. Sorry. We'll go here, and then we'll go over to that side. Yeah, sorry. We'll go Sam, chat with the check shirt, and then we'll go to John.
Something that I picked up on. Ollie, you said you're bringing your cow size up. Is that to bring calf size up to make them more saleable? Obviously, Rebecca, you've got your calf situation sorted. And Sam, what is your, what do you do with your calves? Are they, because you've obviously got small cows, are they processed at a young age, or are they?
At the moment, they are, at a young age. Something that we're trialing going forward is something like we'd like to do grass-fed beef going forward. We've got a trial with crossing Shetlands onto our cows to bring a bit more beefiness into them. They were a dairy breed.
Shetlands.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nikki.
Don't laugh. Shetland's an excellent cow.
what I thought would be interesting, you know, because they are a dairy breed, but they are a bit more beefy. So,
Yeah, and Ollie, obviously you're Arla producer, so you've got to keep them for a certain age. Are they then, a bit of a wicked problem, are they then being processed after that age, or are they being taken further on to prime?
So we're 100% sex semen on our replacements, and then Angus and Hereford bulls. And we're selling every calf off the farm now at 2-3 weeks old. And then we're probably rearing maybe 100 through the system, because I think they've got a place on the farm as a circular economy that we want to keep them.
Anything on you want to add anything around calves? Do all of your calves go into anything that's not replacement? Do all of your calves then go into the beef herd?
Yeah, no, they do. So we've got some really good Jersey cross cows, which are actually working really well in our 100% pasture-fed suckler system. We're experimenting with different breeds to get a more robust suckler out of the Jersey. We're going for dual purpose, so I've got a couple of Shetlands, but we're using some Hereford, using some Red Poll, using some Irish Moyle, Dairy Shorthorn, all sorts, licorice, all sorts. It's a bit of fun, just to work out what works for us for the best. And then the benefit is, if I have a nice heifer, if I think I want to milk her, then I can do. Then I'll put Jersey back on and get a really nice hybrid mix. But I just wanted to say something very quickly to the lady who mentioned TB. Don't for a second think because I sell raw milk I don't take TB seriously. No, I know. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in our food system that kills us slower. So there's balance, and for me, it's really important. Balance in all things.
We've got a question over here with Chedgey, and just while that's being said, I'm loving the mentioning of the Shetland cattle, and I would say at the back, thank you. And if I was living closer to Sam, I would take all of his Shetland young stock. It's just that I live all the way up in Scotland because I think they're amazing. So yeah, question over here.
Hi there. I'm a beef farmer from Cornwall, but I also host a Farming Focus podcast. I'm really interested to hear about the different systems. I'm sure you're variously dependent on different amounts of labour. Conscious of time, I'd really like to understand the dynamics with the team, and also how easy has it been to bring them along on the journey? You've talked about purpose, you've talked about being stubborn. Has it been easy, difficult? What have been the challenges?
Sam, do you want to go first?
There's a great book about I can't remember his first name. Sinek. What people are looking. Simon Sinek. Yeah. What people are looking for is autonomy, purpose, and mastery. And I think through what we're doing, we're trying to offer that, and people that get what we do want to hang around and be involved. So we're not looking for workers. We're looking for people that are decision makers and want to be involved. And can see a vision of how that they can contribute, but also be a part in the short term and the long term, and whether that is being part of the business and share farming with us, or even getting skills so they can go and set up their own businesses. So that's what we're catering for. But also we've got very young teams. I think the collective age of one farm that we run is about 500 cows. I don't think the average age is probably about 20. So young people can have responsibilities. They just need to be coached. I've got guys that have been with me 8-10 years, and now that they're running some of the farms, they started when they were 15, and they're starting to get equity. So I think it's about creating that vision, but also working on yourself as an employer. We need to understand that we need each other, rather than thinking that people should be grateful for us giving them jobs.
Ollie, you got stuff?
Much the same as Sam. We actually have a waiting list to come and work on the farm, and I've had great success in non-farming people. Very much I learned a lot about myself and how you can coach people, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that as to give back down for the system. I guess I struggle more with people that have been in agriculture to come across.
Yeah, I'd agree with both chaps, actually. I think our best, our total staff number, because of all the various enterprises, is huge. It's 30. But if you add on all the teenagers, I think we contribute to about 40 incomes locally. On the farm side, you exclude us, we're family, we don't count. Not in the budget anyway. I think we've got three part-timers, and one's just come for the summer. We find that the best people in our farms team are not from a farming background, and they want to get involved and be in the food system and do the right thing, and they're amazing to work with because they ask fantastic questions. And we've got one particular lady who we call the Amazing Mel because she is relentless, and when we did our holistic management training, she did it with us, and she got it way quicker than we did because she just asked why all the time, and she won't settle with it because, which is just like my children, which is why they're equally wonderful. So yeah, the best farmers that we have in our business are non-farmers, and I completely agree with the pain of dealing with people who think they know it all. I don't know it all, and I've been doing it 8 years. It's a drop in the ocean.
We're meant to be finishing, but I'm going to say we've got time for one more question. So we'll go to John over here. Put your arm up, John, so we can see where you are. Thank you. So final question, make it a good one.
Thank you. Question to you all. In terms of cropping diversity, but also plant diversity, what have you added to your grass lays, and are you using shrub or tree browse as part of the diet and the self-medication of your stock?
That's a good question. Ollie?
So our cows will eat docks and bramble and even thistle when they want to. We started off with just a normal herbal lay mix, and we've very much gone on the journey. If it wants to grow there, we let it grow there. So if the cocksfoot wants to be on that heavy clay land, we leave it there. But eventually they settle out to where they want to be. So as we go through the rotation, there are different swards and different diversity each day for the cow.
Rebecca?
Yeah, so we put GS4 herbal lays down across the majority of the farm. The cows have got access back to hedge browse most of the time. In an ideal world, I would like to put agroforestry strips in and graze them through those. We've got big fields, very few hedges, but we try and work a hedge in every other paddock or every couple of paddocks. They do like to stop on the way in and out of the parlour. Sometimes they have a mile walk and stop and eat something, which is brilliant. But sometimes it's slightly frustrating. And because John sat in the front row and he's nodding off, if you go onto our Instagram and watch us, if you look at our videos, you'll see the cows stopping at one particular tree we call the Sacred Hawthorn every time they come in and into the parlour and go out of it. And there's something in the soil in that tree that they stop and they respect it and they see it and they rub against it. So yeah, we try and encourage that behaviour as much as we can, although it sometimes pains us to do so.
Yeah, we've started off with adding nothing, so that the field's quite diverse already. There's a lot of weeds and a lot of different grass species. We're fortunate we've got a lot of hedges, and the cows do browse on them. They're mad for sycamore. They do like to graze the willow. We have overseeded a lot of clovers and different grass species on a few fields just to trial them. And we're interested in trialing the Clifton Park mix, to be honest, on a couple of fields, and that's what we're working on at the moment.
Amazing. I'm going to draw things to a close. A huge thank you to our panel, to Sam, Ollie and Rebecca.